Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat. Once again, if you can hear me clearly, please drop a one alive in the live chat, and we can get today's stream started. And while I'm waiting for the ones to come in, if you're watching this on the replay, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, hit the like button. That's one of the most important things you can do on my videos is hit the like button. That way this video will permeate throughout the YouTube algorithm and will push my video out forward to those who need to see it and those who are interested in this type of content. Also, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. Please share this video out on your social media platforms. And also, if you haven't already, please make sure you follow me on Telegram. The link to my Telegram channel is pinned in the live chat above, and it will be pinned in the comment section below, as well as in the description box below. So I see the ones are starting to come in, so we can get today's show started. And also, let me know also if I sound a little bit too loud. But let's get into today's show, right? So, as you saw by the title of uh, today's show is titled Willie Wilson criticizes Brandon Johnson and Black leaders failing Black community. This was a really interesting commentary piece that he wrote in the Chicago Tribune earlier last month, and I felt that it deserved a little attention. More attention than what it's gotten, which is zero attention so far. But hopefully, it will help this article kind of take off a little bit more and just put his message out in the forefront, because what he's saying in this message, and you can see by the title right here, Willie Wilson, Black elected leaders must accept responsibility for what is happening in our community. I'm 100% in agreement with the title. And I believe as I continue on through this opinion piece that he wrote, you will all be in agreement and alignment with him as well concerning what's happening with Black political officials, how they do absolutely nothing for the Black community, and that they are 100% responsible for what's happening in our community. Now, for those of you who don't know who Willie Wilson is, he's very famous for the most part in Chicago. I'm not sure about how large his reach is outside of the city of Chicago, but within the city of Chicago, he's very, very well known, particularly in the Black community, just as a very successful businessman. And he's known for his philanthropic work as well. He's also run for mayor 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. And I spoke on him a couple of days ago in this video that many of you watched, titled This Man Plans to Stop Non-Citizen Policing in Illinois. For those of you who did not see that video, or I should say that live stream from 2 days ago, Willie Wilson is actually suing the state of Illinois to put an end to the bill that was signed into law by Governor J.B. Pritzker that now makes non-citizen policing legal in the state of Illinois, effective January 1st of 2024. Willie Wilson is actually trying to stop it, and I wholeheartedly support him in his efforts with the lawsuit that he's delivering upon the state of Illinois, just to put an end to that foolish, nonsensical law. Hopefully, he wins that case and he can get some support behind him. So now let's get into this opinion piece that he wrote right here, because, like I said, I feel that it deserves a lot of attention, and a lot more than what it's gotten so far, especially when it comes to giving the proper critiques to Black politicians, right? So, as the title reads off, Willie Wilson, Black elected leaders must accept responsibility for what's happening in our community. And what's funny off top is that when you read that title of Black elected leaders must accept responsibility for what's happening in our community, and you look at this photo here of Brandon Johnson, with a smirk on his face and his hand up like, oh, no, we don't. We're not accepting any responsibility for what's happening in the Black community. That's how he's looking. So I just found that photo very kind of humorous, being at the top of this article. But let's dive into it. Because like I said, I think that this definitely deserves some attention. Black America in Chicago and throughout the United States is in crisis. And it is foolhardily to think that anyone will step in and save us. The solutions to our liberation must come from within. We must accept responsibility for what is happening in the Black community. For the last 60 years, the majority of Black America have been stuck in place. The unprecedented number of Black elected officials in Illinois and nationwide should lead to qualitative improvements in the Black community. Now, I 100% agree with them there. For the last 60 years, the majority of Black Americans have been stuck in place. We've been 100% stuck in place. And that's kind of one of the main talking points here on this channel. All right. And what he's speaking of is how we've been stuck in place basically since the, more or less somewhat of official end of the civil rights movement, 1964, with the passing of the Civil Rights Bill. After that, Black Americans have been voting blue no matter who, to the tune of 85 to 90% every election cycle. And since then, nothing has changed on a fundamental level. On a cosmetic level, surface level, sure, you can go to, I guess, the library and eat at lunch counters and urinate in the same urinals as white men, right? There's a lot of surface level changes, but as far as deep rooted changes, especially concerning and particularly concerning the racial wealth gap, that's actually widening and has gotten worse. The Black community as a whole has actually taken numerous steps backwards, despite how many Black elected officials that we currently have in office. And I'm actually going to go into detail about how many elected officials we have in office in just a few moments. But I wholeheartedly agree with Willie Wilson when he says for the last 60 years, the majority of Black Americans have been stuck in place. We 100% have. Now let's carry on. With significant political power, why are Black people at the top of the list for negative socioeconomic indicators? Why are Black children in Chicago public schools falling further behind? Why is Black on Black crime out of control in Chicago and other major cities? In fact, more than 80% of the victims of gun violence in Chicago are Black. Why is the gap in social disparities widening? Those are all really good questions, given how many Black political officials that we have. The question must be raised, and here is the greatest question that he asked, right? The question must be raised: are Black political, civil rights, and church leaders being used to oppress Black people? I'm going to read that one more time. The question must be raised: are Black political, civil rights, and church leaders being used to oppress Black people? I'm going to steal a page out of Blacklight Revelations handbook. If you agree that, I'm laughing because it's fun to steal from Rob. If you agree that Black political, civil rights, and church leaders are being used to oppress Black people, give me a thumbs up. And if you disagree, give me a thumbs down. Okay, if you agree, give me a thumbs up in the live chat. And if you disagree, give me a thumbs down. I think it's more than safe to say that the answer is yes. And we all know that the answer is yes. That's exactly what they're being used for, right? Now, let's carry on. I know that discrimination and systemic racism still exist, obviously, right? However, we must hold our Black elected officials accountable for their actions and inaction toward improving conditions in Black neighborhoods. And that is 100% what I was speaking to. I believe it might have been in the last live stream that I did concerning non-citizen policing in Illinois, right? When I spoke on Brandon Johnson not too long ago, I made the statement that we as a people should not take it easy on Black elected officials at all. And that's kind of the unwritten rule of thumb, is that if you're in office and you're a Black elected official, that Black folks, we got to take it easy, man. Don't be so hard. Why are we being harder on the Black politicians than we are on the white politicians? That's a cop out. That is a huge cop out. I am all for being 100% harder on Black politicians than on the white ones, because more is expected of the Black politicians, especially given the fact that the overwhelming majority of them play upon their Blackness, appealing to your emotions by playing on the past and sympathizing with you as if they understand the hurt, the pain, and the struggle that Black Americans go through. And you would think and assume that they do, given the fact that they are Black and from the Black community. But when they get into office, they don't conduct themselves in that fashion. So once again, like I said, for me, I'm all about being 100% harder on Black politicians than on the white ones, because more is expected of you and more should be done from you, right? Now, let's carry on. It is the oppression by Black elected leaders of Black people that troubles me. In 1994, more than 2/3 of the Congressional Black Caucus helped pass the Oppressive Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, also known as the Crime Bill. The bill led to devastating consequences for Black Americans. Civil rights lawyers Michelle Alexander chronicles the impact of the crime bill in her book, The New Jim Crow. America has the highest prison population in the world, with more than 2 million people incarcerated. The crime bill provided $12.5 billion for prison construction, and states that required inmates to serve at least 85% of their sentences were rewarded. In Cook County, Black people account for 23% of the population, but 73% of the jail population. People and corporations have profited from the dysfunctionality of the Black community. The private prison industry has an annual revenue of $7.4 billion. The overall spending on corrections in the United States is more than $80 billion. Now, I want to come back to the point that he raised here when he said people and corporations have profited from the dysfunctionality of the Black community. That is something else that is 100% true. And particularly with the Democratic Party, there are no efforts by them to right any of the wrongs and make any of the corrections that need to be made within the Black community. There are no genuine efforts by them to actually solve the problems in our community at all, because they profit off of them, right? And they benefit off of them. They love these disparities that exist between Black and white Americans. They love that these disparities are ever widening and getting ever bigger, because as long as they continue to grow or maintain the way that they are, they can always play to your emotions and play to your pain as if they're going to do something for you while never doing anything for you. And you'll run and give them their vote like we always do, because we've been doing this same game of vote blue no matter who since 1964, right? So they love the dysfunctionality. The dysfunctionality is actually encouraged by the Democratic Party, right? People love to cry in my comment section about, why don't you talk about the Republicans? What about the Republicans, right? But it's the Democratic Party that's pretending to be your friends while stabbing you in the back. It is oppression when Black elected leaders support an unfair priority tax system that causes more Black people to lose their homes to the tax sale. Home ownership helps build wealth. In Cook County, which includes Chicago, the majority of tax evictions occur in Black neighborhoods, according to the 2021 report by Housing Action Illinois. Losing one's home because of unpaid taxes hurts families and communities. It is the oppression of the Black church that has abandoned a liberation theology and adopted a go along to get along message. So as to not offend anyone, the church is the single most important institution in Black life, and it must be at the forefront of leading the charge for salvation, liberation, equity, and reestablishment of the family unit. Now, there was a time when the Black church actually was kind of the head of the Black community. Those days are long gone. People are actually falling away from the church right now, right? They're actually falling away. So those days are long gone. But there was a time when they were actually, somewhat of the leaders of the community, and they held a very prominent role in the community as it pertains to the liberation of Black Americans. But these days, as it pertains to fighting for the liberation and freedom and equity of Black Americans in America, they're collaborators with the Democratic Party to keep us managed on the Democratic Party plantation, to which nothing is ever done for the Black community and given to us as a reward for our votes, right? So instead of being at the forefront of liberation, of restructuring the family unit, right, of equity, instead they're collaborating. And I just want to pull this photo up. How many of you remember this? Lord have mercy. How many of you remember that photo, right? Instead of being at the forefront of liberation, instead of being at the forefront of bringing back the family structure in the Black community, instead of being at the forefront of all the things that they used to be at the forefront of concerning the betterment of the community, they have become collaborators instead. 100% collaborators. This photo right here is so makes me want to throw up in my mouth. I cannot stand this photo here. You got Joe Biden kneeling down on his knees. I guess he was taking a knee for that was at the Kaepernick knee in 2020 after the whole George Floyd incident, and that was all it took to get the Black vote. Take a knee in the Black church. Like I said, many of these Black churches have become collaborators. They don't want to lose their, what is it called? The 501(c) status, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what it is, where they don't have to pay taxes, 501(c) status? They don't want to lose that, right? And they get rewarded handsomely by way of donations, and they want to keep that. They don't want to lose it. But let's carry on with this opinion piece, right? Now, when you get to the portion here that I don't have highlighted, what Willie Wilson is discussing is hip hop, the effects of hip hop on the Black community, and the effects of drug dealers on the Black community. I didn't feel it was necessary to really go in on that or even speak on that, because those are all byproducts of the fact that the community is currently in a state of dysfunction because there hasn't been any serious problem within the last 60 years, right? Primarily as it pertains to the racial wealth gap, right? If the racial wealth gap wasn't as busted wide open as it was, and if we weren't in a state of disarray and dysfunction because of that, then the rap music as it exists today and drug dealers in our community as they exist today just simply wouldn't exist, right? At least not to the degree that they exist now. They wouldn't be here if our communities were intact. But it's because the communities are not intact, and the communities are not intact because we continuously have Black elected officials that sell us out year after year after year, that we even have to deal with the glorification of rap music that's spewing a degenerate message, as well as drug dealers. So like I said, I didn't feel that it was important to really highlight that portion and speak on it too much, right? Because when all of the other things are addressed that Willie Wilson is speaking on, particularly as it pertains to the racial wealth gap, then you'll see those things fade away, right? So let's go to the other highlighted portion that I have here. It is the oppression of Black Americans having substandard infrastructure and access to clean drinking water. This occurs too often in communities led by Black mayors. And as we scroll down a little bit more, it is the oppression of Black civil rights organizations that allow injustices to continue without collectively demanding equity. They are more focused on labor union and corporate contributions to their annual fundraisers and sacrifice their mission to the community. Can anybody say NAACP? He basically explained the NAACP in a nutshell. How many of you all remember the $50 million that went to the NAACP via Wells Fargo? And if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, that $50 million going to the NAACP didn't come too far after a report came out concerning how Wells Fargo was discriminating against, I believe it was Black home buyers, or just Black Americans in general, who are attempting to get loans from Wells Fargo. If you wanted a loan from Wells Fargo and you're a Black, whether it be a home loan or a business loan, if I remember correctly, it didn't matter if your credit score was on point and you already had a little bit of money in the bank and all of your information was in order and on point. It didn't matter. They still weren't giving you a loan, right? And then not too long afterwards, all of a sudden, Wells Fargo is giving $50 million to the NAACP. right? So we all know how that works. We all know what's happening with that. So let's carry on. And before I do so, um, there are 347 of you all in the live stream right now. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. That is one of the most important things you can do for me on this channel. There are 351 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Also, please make sure you hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel, and hit the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And also, please make sure you share this video on your social media platforms as well. And shout out to Untried Genius for the super chat, doubling down because he's also a channel member. I appreciate you, Untried Genius, for all the support that you continuously show me. Untried Genius said, Black oppression and protection are businesses. I'm gonna read that again. Black oppression and protection are businesses. If Black people were liberated, the NAACP and the CBC would crumble. That is a 100% fact. There is no incentive on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus or the NAACP for these disparities that exist within the Black community to close and go away. There is no incentive in Black progress, actual genuine Black progress. Because if there was Black progress, there would be no need for the NAACP. There was no Black progress. If there was Black progress, there would be no need for the NAACP. There would be no need for the Congressional Black Caucus. And quite frankly, if more Black people were thriving and doing well in America, there would be no need for the Democratic Party. Because by and large, for the most part, Black folks don't really vibe with what the Democratic Party's pushing, right? And we all know what they're pushing. We don't really get down with that. We're not into that, the message that they're really pushing. But the thing is that we hang on to them because we feel that we're going to actually get something out of the Democratic Party someday if we keep voting blue no matter who hard enough, despite 60 years of evidence, literally almost a century, right? Almost a century of evidence that tells us otherwise. But maybe those things are coming to a change, hopefully, because there are reports coming out that the Biden administration is a little concerned about Black voter turnout in the next election, right? But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But let's carry on with this article here, right? So I want to come here now to, did I read this already? Yes. Let's get to this portion here. The following are recommendations to consider that will improve the equity of life for Black people. And also shout out to Mo Fax if you're still in here. I didn't get a chance to acknowledge you, Mo, but if you're still in here, shout out to you, brother. Number one, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton and Illinois House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welsh should convene all Black elected officials with the purpose of creating a plan to deal with racial disparities, violence, unemployment, poverty, and other key issues. Now, who is Juliana Stratton and who is Emanuel Chris Welsh? Well, I'll show you real quick. And this is really the only thing that matters when I ask that question. They're Black, okay? The Lieutenant Governor of Illinois. Are you guys happy now? Some of you get annoyed when I say Illinois. Listen, I've been saying Illinois with the S at the end my whole life, and I'm not going to stop now. So I'll humor you all this one time. She's the Lieutenant Governor of Illinois, okay? But we're going to go back to dropping the S at the end of it. But Juliana Stratton is the Lieutenant Governor of Illinois, okay? Black woman. Emanuel Chris Welsh is the Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives, right? Black man. There are a lot of Black faces in high places that run the state of Illinois as well as the city of Chicago. Yet the city continues to be in the state of disarray that it is as it pertains to the Black community. Our communities continue to be upside down, right? Number two, church leaders, fraternities, and sororities should convene a meeting focused on developing a plan to restore the Black family, teach respect for life, and promote the importance of love, healthy eating, and mental health and financial literacy. In a perfect world, that would be amazing, if that happened in a perfect world. Church leaders should 100% be involved and at the forefront of restoring the Black family, teaching respect for life and promoting the importance of love. And, as far as fraternities and sororities are concerned, the Divine Nine, aka Ski Wee, you would think with all their education that they would be at the forefront of healthy eating, mental health, and financial literacy. But the reality is that when it comes to these fraternities and sororities, particularly, right, the Ski Wee crowd, the Divine Nine, right, when it comes to them, the reality is that they don't identify with the Black community, right? They don't identify with the Black community. They are a separate group that are not like you, right? They do not consider themselves and look at themselves as being a part of the greater body of Black America. They are their own little elite Divine Nine group that actually, for the most part, frown on the rest of the Black community. If we're being honest, they don't look at us and them as the same, right? That's why they don't really care about the issues that us regular old Black folks care about. They don't care at all. Like Mo Fax said, the talented 10th, right? They don't care. They don't care. So you're never going to actually see them get together and convene with one another to really push something for the Black community. They work well with one another to promote themselves. They do a great job of promoting themselves. Our good brother Rob is always talking about value chain on his channel, Black Light Revelations too. And the Divine Nine definitely have a value chain in which they promote one another, right? And they get one another to have high positions within the system of illegitimacy so they can stand along Joe Biden like Kamala Harris. But when it comes to the average, everyday Black American, they could care less. They don't see you and them as being the same. Number 3, corporate leaders should consider funding a Black think tank in Chicago to address issues like racial disparities and inequities. I agree as well. I agree with that. And that is also something that Rob, our good brother Rob from Black Light Revelations, he speaks on a lot. He's always talking about the need for think tanks. So I 100% agree. And we're just about ready to wrap this up. Number 4, the community must hold leaders, civil rights organizations, and each other accountable for ensuring progress towards equity. And that's what's happening right now with Brandon Johnson and with what I've been doing on this channel, really what this channel is built on. A lot of people get upset. They get bent out of shape. They tell me you only tear down Black politicians. You only tear down other Black people. No, they need to be held accountable the most. I expect white politicians to be who they are. I expect non-Black politicians not to care. Why would they? They're not Black. So of course they don't care. And of course they're not doing anything for you, and they're not going to, right? But when it comes to Black community leaders, civil rights organizations, and elected officials, I expect a lot more from you. Now, if we're being honest and realistically, I don't expect anything from them personally, right? Because the evidence is out there. They're not going to do anything. But nonetheless, they deserve all the pressure that gets put on them. They deserve all the criticism. A lot of people tell me in the comment section, TD, you're being too hard on Brandon Johnson. He just got into office in Chicago. He inherited this migrant crisis situation. He didn't create it. You're being too hard on him. No, I'm not being hard enough, and you're not being hard enough. Not trying to hear anything about how he just got into office. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the results. Where are the results? You all took it easy on Barack Obama, and he skated through his presidency a whole 8 years and did absolutely nothing for you because nobody wanted to be too hard on him. And when Tavis Smiley and Cornel West were, quote, too hard on him, right? They were looked at as crazy. They were looked at as being in the wrong. Tavis Smiley pretty much lost his career over that, right? So when you're sitting there taking it easy on these politicians, you give them the back door to exit out of to not do anything for you. So like I said, we're not being hard enough. In closing, Willie Wilson says, Black voters have been conditioned to accept the absolute least from Black elected officials. That goes right back to what I was just saying. We accept the least from Black elected officials because we want to take it easy on them so bad. Stop taking it easy on them. They deserve the most scrutiny. They deserve the absolute most scrutiny. I'm not interested in how long you've been in office and the fact that you just got here. Show me the results. That's all that matters. Also, Black elected officials have been adored at using Republicans as the boogeyman standing in the way of progress. And that is something that I despise, the using of Republicans as the boogeyman. That is exactly and 100% what Black politicians and Democrats as a whole do, right? And Mr. and 1976, I see the 100 and emojis, and Willie Wilson is spot on. He's spot on with everything that he's saying here in this statement. This is one of the many reasons why I go so hard on the Democratic Party. We know what the Republicans are about. I'll just sit here and tell you what Republicans are about, but the problem is Black folks don't seem to know and understand what the Democrats are about. They don't seem to know and understand that the Democrats dislike you just as much as the Republicans do. The only difference is that they stab you in the back with a smile on their face, right? That's the only difference. But Democrats love using, boogeyman DeSantis and MAGA this and Republicans that. And the reason that we can't do anything for Black Americans is because of the Republicans, right? But get this, what Willie Wilson has over here in green, right, that I highlighted. And before we get into that, there are 418 of you in the live stream right now. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. That is the most important thing that you can do for this video, is hit the like button if you have not already. And thank you very much. Shout out to Jay Bird with the super chat. I appreciate you, Jay Bird, the second person who contributed to today's show, saying, showing love to the channel. I appreciate that, Jay Bird. Jay Bird's a channel member and showing extra love by dropping a super chat. Thank you very much. And once again, there are 415 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. But let's get to the last part right here that I have highlighted in green, right? Let's get to this portion right here that Willie Wilson wrote, because this was an excellent add-on to what he says here in purple when he says, well, in Illinois, they cannot blame Republicans because Democrats have a supermajority. In the purple, once again, it reads, well, in Illinois, they cannot blame Republicans because Democrats have the super majority. I've showed you all this before. Illinois has a super majority in their General Assembly. A super majority, right? In the state Senate, out of 59 seats, Democrats hold 40. In the House of Representatives, out of 118 seats, Democrats control 78. In the city of Chicago, let me zoom in because you might not be able to see this too well. In the city of Chicago, and this is city council here, right? That's city council. In the city of Chicago, and their city council has 50 seats. Out of 50 seats, Democrats hold 47. 47 seats out of 50. Can somebody please tell me what's the excuse for why the Black community in Chicago is in complete disarray and upside down? Can somebody please tell me what is the excuse for why nothing ever gets done for the Black community in Chicago? Because the reality is that there is no excuse. There's no excuse at all. This really just goes right back to Willie Wilson's first question, right? At the top of this opinion piece that he wrote, where he asked the question, are Black political, civil rights, and church leaders being used to oppress Black people? Clearly, the answer is yes. Clearly, the answer is yes. You can't have, let me show you all something very quickly. Am I jumping the gun? We have a black lieutenant. No, I'm not jumping the gun. Let me show you all something very quickly. And this is something that I brought to you everyone's attention once before, right? How many of you know how many black elected officials currently exist within the United States? Like overall, how many black elected officials are in the United States? I'll tell you. There are over 10,000, right? Over 10,000. And let me leave the link to this website here in the live chat. So you'll have this for yourself as evidence, okay? I made reference to this before in the past, and I just left the link in the live chat for you all for this website. Now, I'm not going to read everything that I have here highlighted in blue. I mean, that I have highlighted in yellow. But here's just the fact of the matter, okay? Since the 1965 Voting Rights Act, as we speak to this very day currently, there are now over 10,000 elected officials across the entire nation overall, from the White House to city council, 10,000. That's more than Latino, Asian, and Native American political officials, elected political officials combined. There are more black elected officials across the country from the White House to city council combined than there are Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans all put together. There are currently, as of 2021 report, there are currently a little more than 7,000 Latinos who are holding elected office. 7,000. 10,000 versus 7,000. And get this. When it comes to the AAPI community, this article here from Political, Asian Americans are least likely to hold elected office. Look at this over here. A Tuesday report from the Reflective Democracy Campaign obtained exclusively by Politico revealed that AAPI members made up just 0.9% of elected leaders across all levels of government, but 6.1% of the population as of mid-2020. There are only 0.9% AAPI elected officials. Not even 1%. Not one. Look at this graphic here so you get a better picture of what that looks like, right? That's if you click on this link here, right? Look at this graphic here. This is crazy. Out of all elected officials in the United States, from the White House to city council, look at this. 99.1% of them, 99.1% are non-AAPI. Only 0.9% are AAPI. Yet some way, somehow, the AAPI community has more political power and economic power than the Black community, who currently has over 10,000 elected officials in office currently as we speak. Really let that sit in. Really let that settle and marinate. Okay? I should just go silent. I'm gonna let you all think about that for a little bit. Let me take a quick drink, because you all know I have to take at least one drink while I'm doing a live stream, right? Let me take a sip of my drink right quick while you let that settle in. That is crazy. That is insanity. Okay? 0.9% AAPI elected officials versus 10,000 Black elected officials. And then we have to once again go back to the question by Willie Wilson, right? We have to go back to this question once again. Are Black political, civil rights, and church leaders being used to oppress Black people? think we all know the answer to that question is yes. It has to be when you have that many elected officials with no Black progress happening in America, with the racial wealth gap ever widening, with the median wealth of Black Americans headed to zero, and Black America being plunging down. You're plunging, free falling to fourth place on the population list. They are clearly being used to oppress you, not to benefit you. And that goes also as well in the state of Illinois. As you see highlighted in green, Willie Wilson goes on to say, we have a Black lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, Majority Leader in Illinois Senate, State Attorney General, 3 Black justices of the Illinois Supreme Court, Cook County Board President, Chief Judge, State's Attorney, and Clerk. Chief Judge, State's Attorney, and Clerk, Mayor of Chicago, and 4 U.S. representatives. How in the world is the Black community in Illinois, particularly in Chicago, in the situation that it is, with all these Black faces in high places? Democrats, no less. A city that has a city and a state that has a supermajority. They can do whatever they want. But they don't do it because they choose not to. They don't do it because they're simply tools of your oppression. And that includes Brandon Johnson. That 100% includes Brandon Johnson, the new mayor of Chicago. And in closing, Willie Wilson writes, I write this opinion to make uncomfortable those Black people who are comfortable with oppressing other Black people. That is such a elegant way to end this opinion piece. He said, I write this opinion to make uncomfortable those Black people who are comfortable with oppressing other Black people. A thriving and safe Black community benefits America. It takes all of us working together to solve the current conditions in our community. Man, Willie Wilson should have became mayor of Chicago. It's looking like the city dropped the ball with that one. He really should have, at least based off reading this. In between reading this, what I just read to you, right? In between this, and I'll pull this up one more time. In between this piece that he wrote, and in between the fact that he's standing up and filing a lawsuit against the state of Illinois for signing into law non-citizen policing in an effort to stop it. Yeah, the ball was dropped on that one. The ball was dropped with not electing him mayor. The ball was dropped big time, in my opinion, right? There are 483 of you in the live stream right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And also, to be quite honest, with all that being said, that does it for today's video. That does it for today's video. But going back once again, and because that was just a great question to ask by Willie Wilson. And we're going to end this stream out with that question. Once again, are Black political, civil rights, and church leaders being used to oppress Black people? The evidence that I've presented to you here today proves that the answer is yes. The answer is clearly yes. Now, the real question is, what are we going to do about it? And I'll let you marinate on that until the next live stream. So with all that being said, thank you all for joining me today. There are 482 of you in the live stream right now. Please hit the like button on your way out. For those of you who contributed to today's live stream via Super Chat and Cash App, thank you very much. Your financial contributions are very much appreciated. I cannot do this without your support. And all of you who support me via the Cash App, Super Chat, as well as those on Patreon and channel members, I just want to thank you very much for all the love and support that you all have shown me. please, once again, hit that like button on your way out, and I'll catch you on the next live stream. Have a great evening and a safe one. Peace.